The airplane cabin was filled with the usual hum of engines, clinking glasses, and murmurs of passengers settling in for a long flight. But just 20 minutes after takeoff, that calm broke. A little boy, no older than 7, began screaming uncontrollably. His cries were sharp, desperate, and unlike the usual tantrums most passengers had witnessed. His tiny fists beat against the seat, his body twisting in panic. Some passengers frowned, others sighed loudly, while a few muttered under their breath about bad parenting. But what they didn't know was that the boy, Ethan, was autistic. And for him, the sounds of the plane, the pressure in his ears, the tight space, it all felt unbearable. Sitting beside him was his father, Daniel Hayes, a well-dressed man in his early 40s. Daniel was the CEO of a successful tech company, known for his sharp decisions and commanding presence. But in this moment, he looked helpless. He whispered, pleaded, held his son tightly, but nothing worked. Sweat lined his forehead as he felt the heavy weight of judgment from everyone around him. That's when a voice came from the row across the aisle. "Hey, mind if I try?" Daniel turned and saw a man in his mid-30s, wearing a simple hoodie and jeans. He looked tired, maybe even worn down, but his eyes were calm, gentle. At his side was a little girl, around 5 years old, peacefully clutching a stuffed bunny. "I don't think that's a good," Daniel began, defensive, embarrassed. But before he could finish, Ethan looked toward the man. For the first time since the screaming began, he paused, just for a second. The man smiled warmly. "I've been there," he said softly. "I'm a single dad, and my son was autistic too." Daniel blinked, stunned. The cabin grew strangely quiet as curious passengers watched. The single dad slowly stood, knelt beside Ethan's seat, and without forcing a touch, began humming. Not just any tune, it was, "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." His voice was soft, steady, almost like a lullaby. Ethan's wild eyes darted toward him, then to the little girl holding the bunny. The girl giggled and held out the stuffed toy. "You can borrow him," she whispered. To everyone's amazement, Ethan reached out, took the bunny, and the screams began to fade into hiccuping sobs. Within minutes, his breathing slowed, his small body relaxing against the seat. The cabin, once tense and heavy with irritation, now buzzed with awe. Daniel's eyes welled up. He had tried everything, therapists, specialists, techniques, but nothing had worked this fast. He leaned forward, his voice breaking. How did you do that?" The man gave a faint smile. "Sometimes, they just need to feel safe. My son used to calm down when I sang to him. He passed away last year." His voice cracked slightly, but he quickly steadied himself. "So when I saw your boy, I knew I had to try." The weight of his words silenced everyone. Daniel, a man who commanded boardrooms and built empires, suddenly felt small, but in the best way possible. He reached out, gripping the stranger's hand with genuine gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. "You have no idea what this means." The rest of the flight passed quietly. Ethan sat calmly, clutching the stuffed bunny, occasionally glancing at the man who had given him peace. Passengers who once glared with annoyance now smiled warmly, some even wiping tears. As the plane landed, Daniel insisted on getting the man's contact information. "I don't usually say this," he said, voice trembling, "but you've done something no doctor, no specialist, no therapy has managed to do. You gave my son peace. If you ever need anything at all, just call me." The single dad shook his head gently. "You don't owe me a thing. Just, be patient with him. That's all he really needs." And with that, he walked away, holding his daughter's hand, disappearing into the sea of travelers. Daniel stood there, holding Ethan's small hand, heart full in a way no business victory had ever given him. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a CEO. He felt like a father who had been reminded of what truly mattered. Because sometimes, miracles don't come from wealth or power. Sometimes, they come from the quiet kindness of a stranger who's walked the same road, someone willing to share a piece of their own heart so another can heal. And that day, high above the clouds, one single dad reminded an entire plane full of people what humanity really looks like.